right. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining. This is once again a great turnout for what I think is going to be an awesome topic. I'm super excited to welcome Maria, our very own money guru. And I think you all obviously know Maria, but she's a college access counselor and does a whole variety of presentations outside of FAME for FAME students and families and customers around money management. And we thought, with all of these experts on staff, let's include some of them in our workshop series. So we're really excited to have Maria today. And we're excited about this topic because I think this is one that, certainly some of us learned growing up, or maybe we learned in a home ec class, or we've learned sort of on our own, but not every strategy is something that we've all adopted. So I think it's always good to kind of step back and rethink, especially right now, in terms of, food budgeting and purchasing food on a budget. One thing I will say as we move throughout is one thing that we've noticed throughout all of these sessions is you all have really great ideas as well and feedback. And so I would encourage you in the chat as Maria's moving through the presentation to ask questions. And if you have any tips or suggestions that you think the whole group would benefit from, in terms of your strategies to save money on food or menu planning or that sort of thing, just fill the chat full of comments, because I think that's been a really enriching part of these sessions, is when everybody kind of chimes in and says what they do at home. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Maria, and thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Mary, and thanks for asking me to do this. I'm excited about this, and you mentioned sort of how we learn. I had to learn this on my own. We grew up really super low income. So I learned some tips in terms of how to stretch a food budget to its max. But a lot of this I did kind of just over the course of trying to manage a budget and feed a family. One other tiny pre-disclaimer, we did just adopt a 5-month-old kitten who may or may not make an appearance. And if for some reason I disappear, it's because he's walked across the keyboard. We're working on training, but so Tippy may or may not make an appearance as we go through. So I'm going to give another disclaimer in a second, and then we're just going to go over kind of what I do, some things I've learned, some things I've read about, some grocery strategies that help me. We're in a pandemic, so of course we're going to talk about curbside and delivery, which I think more and more of us are utilizing, and maybe less now, but certainly at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of folks were. And just some tips and tricks and things that have helped my family with our menu planning. So my main disclaimer is that I'm obviously not a doctor. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a super healthy person. I've been binging Girl Scout cookies like you would not believe. I've given up wine, and I think I've just replaced it with cookies. That said, I'm sharing some things that work for me. And it's all about balance, a balanced diet and a balanced budget. Like you're going to see a real life picture of my whiteboard menu. And not all the things on it are super healthy, but they're balanced. And that's the goal here. Also, no one in my household has any dietary restrictions. So some of the meal planning and grocery strategies will work no matter what your food restrictions are. But just knowing those of you on special diets, gluten-free and those kinds of things, do recognize that it's generally more expensive, unfortunately. But some of the strategies for shopping and menu planning, I think, will still be useful to you. So if you are someone with a different dietary profile, please put your tips in the chat or what's worked for you, so that we can share those with each other. Again, not super healthy. So I'm going to start with a little clip. I hope this is going to play before we dive in. There we go. I'm not going to play the whole 5 minutes.
Gina on her suite. Let's see what she's going to do. Well, the first thing she's going to try to do is get hold of her cart. The second thing she's going to do is load up on those big new Farmer John hams in the market. They're heavy, but Gina will probably try for 5. And she gets them. The next thing she does, let's see. Oh, it's spot the 7-Up bonus. Smart shopping, Gina. Those bonuses often decide who goes for the $5,000. Let's pick up Team 2. 2, 1, go Aretha! It's Aretha. Let's see what her shopping strategy is. Out she heads for the meat department. Let's see. She wants our expensive roast beef.
Okay, so you get the idea, right? Supermarket sweep, and the meat's always the most expensive, right? And so this I share with you just to say that if I forget to meal plan and make my list, I am supermarket sweep. I go in and I'm like, I'm doing all the things, I'm getting all the food, I'm grabbing whatever I find. Or I obviously don't always grab the most expensive, but I'll grab like, oh, that's on sale, that's on sale. And then I end up with a weird hodgepodge of stuff that I maybe didn't need. So that's kind of, I think if you're looking at both, solving the what's for dinner crisis and trying to keep your balance, your diet and your budget balance, coming in with a plan of attack is key. It's going to reduce your impulse buying, which of course will save you money. It also can spark creativity. So I'm going to show you an app that I use, but cookbooks, all of that, you can kind of take what you need or make, if you've got a bunch of stuff in your pantry, make it an episode of Chopped, right? What can I make out of all the stuff that I already have? That kind of stuff. So just if you want to avoid the supermarket sweep, do some prep work ahead of time. So I'm sure many of you have this cycle in your house. If you're not a meal planner, which is someone says, what do you want for dinner? And they say whatever you want, or I don't care. I find that answer vague and unconvincing, and it's a infinite loop, right? And then it's like, by the time you decide, you either say whatever and get takeout and spend money, or you end up eating the same thing you always eat. So we're trying to solve this conundrum here. And I think I've got it on some level. That's not to say that when we are deciding, like we try to build in a takeout night or a restaurant night when things open back up. And then it's, of course, the roulette wheel of like, where do you want to go? I don't know. Where do you want to go? But that's for a different presentation. So here's how I do this. So I spend my wild Friday nights, y'all, with some kind of beverage, planning my meals for the week, which is just very exciting, but I tend to love it. So I look at what I already have. What do I have in excess of in the fridge, the pantry, the freezer? I don't have a chest freezer yet because they were like crazy hard to find after the pandemic. I think they're starting to come now, but we bought this house in August. And so now that I have the space for it, I'm like dying for an extra freezer, but I've got mine packed pretty well. So what do I already have? What produce or what do I have that's about to go bad that I don't want to waste? Because that's like throwing money directly into your trash can. And guilty as charged, I'll be like, oh, that I think used to be a green pepper. I don't know what that was, right? But I try to look and say, okay, what do I need to use immediately? And then, what do I have that I have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, right? And then I kind of create my menu around what I already have. So then I'm just kind of shopping for supplementals, for things to fill in, right? So that means that I'm buying less overall, right? And so and I'm going to give this in the tip section, but kind of if you stock up, this might take a little time if you're not somebody that kind of keeps extra on hand. And I certainly don't have like a food bank. I'm not the like crazy couponers with the basement full of stuff, but I buy some extras when it's on sale so that I can use them and it's usually staples, pasta, rice, that kind of stuff. And then I work around that. Then on Saturday, I make my list. So once I've got like, okay, this is what I know I have and I'm making, I've got some meals filled in. I make my list and I organize my coupons and apps. So, and I'll show you kind of which ones I use, but my menu includes things I already have. So my list, will be minimal in terms of what I need. So like, I'll look and see what's on sale, and add that to fill in my menu where I need stuff. And I figure out kind of which stores I will go to based on sales. So I will say, I meant to mention this in the beginning, I do have a poll coming up. So you're going to need, and it's not through Zoom. So you're going to need either a browser window or a mobile device to do the next poll. But so I kind of make my, Saturday morning grocery plan, which is like all my coupons and my apps organized, and then figuring out where I'm going to go. Make it like a mission. It's my Saturday morning mission. It's my me time. I usually don't bring the boys to the store with me because I always end up spending more money. And it's my time to just like be in my zone. And don't go hungry. I think we've all heard that little idiom, but like I will pull things off the shelves that I do not need if I don't go after a hearty breakfast. after figuring out what you already have, check the flyer, like I said, for what's on sale and build your meals around that. And that's really big for things like meat, which we saw in our supermarket sweep video, and know from real experience tends to be the most expensive. And especially during the pandemic, I've been finding like ground beef is like sometimes wildly expensive. So, I take a look for, and they get annoyed in my house because they're like, chicken again. I'm like, it's cheap. And you can do lots of different, it's a blank canvas. You can do lots of different things with it. That said, I sort of use that as my starting point to fill in if I need proteins or something like that in my menu. Plan a night for takeout or leftovers. And if you meal plan creatively enough, you can kind of make leftovers into a new meal, which then just really, I have some friends that are way better at this than I am even, who will take one thing and make it on Monday, and then pieces of it can be used all week long. And I've done that sometimes, but plan for leftovers, so that clean out your fridge kind of night, and or a takeout or a meal out if that's something that fits within your budget. If you have young kids in the home, let them pick a meal and let them help cook it, right? I'm a big fan of like, get the family involved. And especially if they help cook it, they're more likely to eat it. So I'm like, let's throw a veg in there. Let's do something. And then you can rotate in your favorite meals, the staples, the things that you're really good at cooking, the things that you like to eat regularly. But, you can get creative. If something's on sale that you don't normally cook very often, that leaves room for new things and creativity. So here is a snapshot of my actual meal board on my refrigerator right now. So during this particular week, ground beef was on sale. So you're going to see a theme, right? So I have like American chop suey and then tacos, and the ground beef also goes on the Big Mac pizza. So I bought like the 3.5 pound family value pack because the unit price is cheaper. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And I stretch it. So I put it into like 1 pound packages in my freezer, roll it flat so that when it thaws out, it thaws flat. There's a storage tip for you. And then I knew that was on sale. I already had 1 pound on me. So I was like, okay, we're just going to work through those meals. The grilled cheese and fries was the kids' pick, not the Big Mac pizza, surprisingly. And then what you don't see on here is that I always add a veggie or a salad. So those I tend to have on hand. Like I always have a couple bags of those like quick salads. And those actually freeze pretty decently if you don't freeze them for too long. So I always add like a frozen veg or a salad to every meal, and extra veggies. So I don't write those on there because my family's just learned to expect them. So I usually do like the main, the protein and the grain or whatever I'm going to do there. It's posted on the fridge so everyone knows what's for dinner. So no one has to say to me, what's for dinner? Because they're going to know if they look at the refrigerator. And sometimes we'll tweak if timing got weird or things like that. But generally, this is how it goes. And then, some weeks it'll be I write leftovers on there. Or if we're going to, grandma's house or whatever, bubble friends kind of, I always note like what is happening with the food so that everybody knows. Okay, so this is where the poll comes in. So you'll see at the top, if you go to pollev.com/FameMaine292, you can answer this poll. So I'm just curious, are you willing to go to multiple stores if it means saving money? I will say, and I think you've heard me say that I am. I don't do all the math of like, what am I saving on gas versus groceries? I suppose I could, but I like making my Saturday morning grocery mission, and some things are just cheaper at other stores. So I'll give you a second to try this poll. And I'm just curious where you all land. I just want to check the chat for 1 second, see what's going on in there. I always have Taco Tuesday. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. We have a lot of efficient, like I want one store and done folks. Okay. Well, maybe I'll change your mind. And if not, that's fine. You can use the same strategies that I'm talking about at one store, especially if you're comfortable at one place or not. So this is not what I expected. That's interesting to me. So again, these methods will work. And if you live, so I actually, one of my stores is 20 minutes away, but I will drive to it because it has better coupons. And I think I actually would save money even considering gas for that. So, and the only place I go is the grocery store. So it's really like, I have the time on Saturday morning because I'm not doing anything else. Great. Thanks for participating with my poll. So I want to see, okay, 7129. Okay, so here's a couple things with considering different stores. So obviously we're in Maine, so I'm taking Shaw's and Hannaford, which are the two biggies. So I actually have the Bridgeton Hannaford fairly close to me here in Naples. We're on the Bridgeton side of Naples. And then the Shaw's is in North Windham, which is like 20-ish minutes away. And the Hannaford near me is a very small one. So also like they don't have a ton of product all the time and they're out of things a lot. So sometimes I'm kind of forced to go to other stores, especially on my like creative menu nights. Like we're big into Asian. I have a whole shelf in my refrigerator that's just like Asian condiments and rice vinegar and mirin and all these things because I really like to cook. But take a look and see, you know, what is on sale, what you need to stock up on. It might take longer, but the savings could be worth it. And of course, there's still circulars, but most of the grocery stores have an app now, so you can kind of check everything out and clip your coupons in the rewards apps. And so like both Shaw's and Hannaford have the like their grocery rewards programs that I do both. And you know, sometimes it's interesting, the manufacturer's coupons will be kind of the same, but one's a little bit better. And I'm like, interesting, this is from the manufacturer, but they're slightly different and one's a better deal. So I really like sit down and go through the apps and compare and take the time. It's like that old coupon clipping show with the people with the binders and they spend that time. I'm just doing it digitally versus the actual clipping. And then I plan from there. Okay, where am I going to hit? Because am I going to have more frozen stuff from the further away store or the closer one? You know, although it's cold out now, it doesn't matter. But in the summer, I take that into consideration. Make a list and stick to it. Pay attention to sales based on quantity also. So sometimes the little sticker or your coupon or your flyer will say must buy 2 in order to get the sale price. I know I've been stuck in that, like, I'm like, oh man, I have to buy 2 or 4 or whatever to get the deal. But that's a great way to do, to stock up, to get some back stock. So I don't know if any of you are Shaw shoppers, but sometimes they have the like Fab 5 where you can mix and match like 5 different things and they all end up being 88 cents a piece if you buy 5. And a while back, before I really got into this, I was like, that feels like a lot. But I end up like, they do it with frozen veggies a lot, which we eat all the time in my house. So I will stock up and I think I can they limit you to like 10 or whatever. So I'll just buy them, pay 88 cents a piece, and then they're in the freezer. And then I don't have to buy them again until the next like Fab 5 sale. But pay attention to those sales based on quantities so that you get the sales price, and check your little label because it will say like price per each versus if you buy 2. And if it's directly half, you're fine, you can buy 1. But if you're only going to get the reduced price based on buying the quantity they ask for, then make sure you look for that. Find out if you must purchase a certain brand for rewards or coupons. So one of the rewards apps I'll talk about is brand based. So unfortunately, you can't buy the store brand on some of those. And sometimes the better coupons are on like the Shaw's or Hannaford brand product. And sometimes they'll have a competing product based on if you buy theirs. So the Shaw's or Hannaford brand might be better than the manufacturer's coupon. So compare those against each other as well. Be sure to shop the walls, especially if you really want to stick to the healthier stuff. That's because in most grocery stores, your sort of essential healthy things are on the outside wall. So you walk in, you're in produce kind of first. That's along the outside. You know, your bakery, your deli, your meats, like dairy, by design. So the healthier, fresher foods are typically along the outer walls. And so then as you get into the inside aisles, with the exception of maybe frozen, you're in the process kind of quick, easy food. And that's not to say that my cart's full of all these various things, but if you're really trying to be dedicated to the healthy stuff, if you make a plan, and when I build my grocery list, like in my app, I do it by like region of the store. Where am I going to go? What am I going to see first? So just keep an eye on, try to remember to shop the walls for the health benefits of that. Pay attention to your unit price. So this is a thing I only learned like kind of recently, and I got this graphic from the Maine Snap Ed, and they do awesome. They have like a whole website of really cool lessons and things. And some of what I pulled for this presentation, I pulled from there, but it was stuff I've already been doing. So the price per unit, so it's usually per pound quart volume, it's like per measure, will tell you if you're getting the most bang for your buck. So like in this example, you've got the little one, you're like, oh, it's only 72 cents. Like, why would I buy this big one? But look at the unit price. So it's only 5 cents per ounce versus 12 cents per ounce. So when you're thinking about making your dollars go further, if you're going to eat that much, I would say if you're not, pay attention to your unit price, but if you're going to end up throwing it away in the end, then you're really not saving much, right? So do weigh that. And I've done that sometimes where I'm like, I know no one in my house will eat the rest of this, and I'm not going to eat it in the week or two that it has for shelf life. So bear that in mind, but do pay attention, and if something's on sale, especially take a look at your sale price versus your unit price and see if it's really a sale or if it's just they're trying to move a product out for some reason. So kind of do some investigating as you're going through. I'm seeing some cool stuff in the chat. I can't wait to look through it later. And this tip came from our very own Summer. So she brings 2 reusable bags and puts them in the cart, and she fills one with like fresh foods, the produce, meat and stuff, and fills the other with processed. Summer, do you want to talk for a second about like how you came to that? Because I haven't heard of that, and I'm like, that's a really good idea. And then like when the bags are full, you're done. I'm like, that would
be. I heard it on the financial diet because we have my husband basically lives on processed food, which in my opinion is a lot more expensive than a lot of the fresh stuff. So it's just a rule that I started going by, and it actually does work. I just moved back to Maine from Texas, and food is a lot cheaper in Texas. So it was kind of like a shock to see, that first grocery store purchase, and it was a lot more money than I was expecting to be spending. But yeah, it works. And granted, it is just me and him because my son isn't old enough to eat food yet. But I think if it was a family of 4, maybe 4 reusable bags or something like that. But I just put it directly in the cart, and the processed food one fills up quickly if my husband's there, but once it's full, you're done. You can't get any more.
I love it. It's a good strategy. If I bring the boys with me, I'm like, here's your 1 bag. When you fill it up, you're done.
Yeah.
Great. I love it. And I'm a big fan of like reusable bags anyway. And I'm neurotic enough that I also I used to be a grocery bagger. So I want to bag it in a certain way so I can put it away in a certain way. So even before the pandemic, I was always like, I'll just do it myself. So thank you for that tip. I like that one. Consider store brand versus name brand. And there's been I've done sort of accidentally blind taste tests with my family. And something I think Mary talked about, it was Pop-Tarts for your boys, right? And that's, sometimes you really can't tell. I will say sometimes there is a difference. My partner is convinced that Cheez-Its and the Shaw's brand Cheez-Its are completely different animals. I don't really taste the difference, but he's convinced. That said, 90% of the time they're pretty much identical, and they're usually less expensive. And then, of course, as we've talked about, some stores will offer rewards for purchasing their brands exclusively. So it's extra points, or it's a better coupon, something like that. So again, when you're pulling, when you're looking at your sales and your circulars and your apps, kind of figure out, can I get by on the store brand? Whatever. Buy in bulk if you're able to. So consider BJ's or Sam's to stock up on, especially if your pantry staples, your essentials, we're a mayonnaise household, pasta, those kinds of things if you can. that can be really helpful if you've got the space for it. I know we're not all in a space where we can store lots of things, but sometimes, especially when you're talking unit price, buying in bulk can make a really big difference. And then stock up and save. So if it's on sale, buy one now and one for later, right? So we talked about sort of the Fab Five thing, and oftentimes the Shaw's near me they'll do like their brand pasta, no matter what shape. Although my partner's also convinced that some shapes taste different, and I'm like, the ingredients are the same, but okay. But they'll be 77 cents a box at some point. So I'll buy, 5 boxes of spaghetti and a whole bunch of different stuff, and just keep it circulating through my pantry and in my shelves, so that for a long time, I don't have to buy it until it goes on one of those good sales again. So if you've got the space, because then you go back to when you're doing your meal for the next week, you've got your inventory to start with. So I've actually found that, like, kind of when I first started, it's like when you're stocking up on the essentials and stuff, but generally it means I'm not shopping for very much every week because I've bought back stock. If chicken's on sale, I'll buy like 2 family packs, and then for a couple weeks I don't have to buy meat. So those kinds of things, you can get pretty good at it if your family members are willing to eat kind of a lot of the same things over and over again. But you can be, if you're cooking, you can be creative. I love a good marinade and barbecue sauce and all that. So let's talk about curbside and delivery. I will admit, I have admitted that I like going to the grocery store, but I lately have been doing curbside because I just haven't been able to find the time. Mary and I were talking before everyone joined, like I've been repainting my living room and doing all these projects on the weekends. And so I've been taking advantage of the Hannaford to go at my local store. And what's great is, contactless, because we're still in this pandemic a year later. But it really does cut down on the impulse buying. So I'm literally putting things on the list that I absolutely need. I'm not walking into the store. I'm not seeing something that they put on an end cap that's on sale that I'm like, oh, that looks good, I need that. I'm not walking through the wine section, those kinds of things. So I think that there's value there for sure, for lots of reasons. And then there's grocery delivery, and I know some places offer this. The Shaw's I go to in Wyndham does, but they won't deliver this far, so I have to go there. But there are a lot of grocery delivery places. I will say that there usually is an upcharge to offset some of the delivery costs. So some things you'll find are the same price, and you can apply your coupons and things in that way. But do be mindful. Like, I remember when we were still living in Wyndham, we did the delivery a couple times early on in the pandemic, and there was like a $2 a pound markup on like deli meat, and I'm like, I don't understand like why that particular thing was so much more expensive. But it's of course not available in all areas. Strangers will know where you live. People are delivering groceries to your house. I don't know how paranoid you all are. I listen to a lot of serial killer podcasts, so it makes me slightly nervous to have someone come and drop groceries off at my house. But that said, it's great for folks who are unable to get to a store. So the disabled, lots of people have used this in the pandemic. It's a great option if you have it available to you. And again, same thing, is going to cut down on those impulse buys. I think a lot of us, I don't know if any place in Augusta does the grocery delivery or not, but if you live in a generally populated area, I think some of the grocery stores will do that. Oh yeah, Whole Foods delivers if you have Amazon Prime. Yep. They still come on a dirt road. Wow. Okay, good to know. So here are some of the apps that I use and the things that have worked for me to save. Instacart in Augusta area. Yeah. So Instacart is the one that will do the Shaw's in Wyndham, but they won't come out to Naples. It's too far. So I am a big fan of Favor Eats is the app. There's a free version, but the paid version is $12.99 for the whole year. So pretty inexpensive. And that also allows you to import your own recipes into it. But what's great is it's kind of the one-stop shop for menu planning and grocery shopping. So it has recipes built in, and then you can add your own, and other users have added their recipes. And so you can add it, you search for a recipe. And what's great is you can just type in chicken. So if you have extra, like chicken thighs, and it will populate recipes with that particular ingredient. So if you got something you got to use up, I have green peppers I got to use up. You type in green peppers and it will give you recipes that incorporate that ingredient, which I really like. And then you put them on the days. It gives you a little calendar. You can put in your own. So some of my placeholder things that I don't have like a recipe for, I'll still put on there. And every time you put a recipe in, you'll see on the list there in the bottom right, it builds your grocery list. So it will put a list together of all the things you need for that particular recipe. Now, a lot of it, if it's seasonings and spices and all of that, I just go in and I click that I already have those. So I go through the recipe list and I say, yeah, I have salt, I have pepper, I have paprika, I have all the things. But then you've got your grocery list right in the app. So you know like what you're eating and what you need. And so I compare that against I keep a little note on my phone for some of the things that I didn't transfer over to this, but it's really kind of a one-stop, and you can save recipes. So there's a few recipes from cookbooks that I like that I've put in here, so that are like favorites in my house, so that I can just put that on and it will put all the stuff on my list. So I'm a big fan of this one. There are many of these out there. If somebody's using something else, I'd love to hear it. But this one I just like because I like the search by ingredient feature specifically, so that I'm not wasting something that's going to go bad. And it's kind of helped me to be a little bit more creative because I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Or I hadn't thought about doing that. And lots of great soups recipes and things through the winter. And anything can be a soup if you just try hard enough. So I really like this app in particular when I'm sitting down to do my menu. Then there are different store apps. So I've seen, there's Shaw's and there's every store has an app now pretty much. So again, looking through, I like the Shaw's like Just For You rewards program. I have found overall with the things that we're buying, the coupons generally tend to be better and more frequent, I think, in terms of how they do their like mix and match sales and those kinds of things. And what's great is like you can use it at the mobile gas station. So when Cafe was more on the road, it came in handy because I would just use my rewards points to get 10 cents off per gallon for gas. But you can see there you can get free products depending on what you have for rewards. The Hannaford has my rewards as well, and you get extra points in both of these if you buy store brands and things like that. Walmart, of course, has their pickup and delivery and their apps as well. I really encourage you to use these if you're not, because it really does save money, and you have the sale flyer right built in, so you know what they are offering. And you'll see that like this has a list too, right? So if I clip a coupon, it goes on my Shaw's list. So I have everything kind of right at my fingertips. So the challenge is like pushing the cart and trying to look at my phone at the same time. But I usually have a plan of action, right? And then I also am a big fan of a cashback app. So part of how I build my menu and my meal plans and things is I look at like what's going to get me the most rewards bang for my buck. So I recently learned, probably within the last 4 or 5 months or so, of Fetch Rewards, which is brand based. So you're not going to get as many points on a store brand item, but you basically shop, you scan your receipts, and you get points so you can cash in for gift cards to anywhere. Like they have thousands, it's Amazon, it's restaurants, it's grocery stores, whatever. And every receipt you scan gets you 5 points no matter what. But if you get bonuses for certain brands, like we're seltzer people in my house, and so Bubbly is one of the brands. So if I buy, and Shaw's always has them 2 for $7, so I get like 150 points at minimum every time when they're doing the Fetch promotion. So if you want to join, my referral code is there, and we'll both get points if you do that. But it's also for any you can hook it to e-receipts, so you can hook it to your Amazon. So if you're a big Amazon shopper, guilty. You can hook it to your Amazon account and to your email, so you can also get points for any online shopping that you do. And I've already been able to cash in, my bonus kid had a birthday, so I got some gift cards. I had a whole bunch of points saved up because I'm really even when I go to the hardware store, I go anywhere, I save up the points. And so I cash those in for some gift cards. So I really like that one. There's also Checkout 51, which has gas rewards also. I will say on Checkout 51, the products are not stuff we buy all the time, but occasionally there'll be like Skippy peanut butter, which we're big, and the Hellman's mayo, and some things, sometimes beverages. During Christmas, they had a lot of candy deals. So I'll use that, occasionally I'll say, oh yeah, I can scan my receipt for that and get some cash back. But it has great gas rewards. So we'll find gas stations close to you that participate in the rewards. And sometimes it's like 6, 8, 10, 12 cents back per gallon on gas. And so I'll, I have to drive a little further to a gas station, but I'm saving on the other end. And, when you get to a certain point, you can cash out. And then there are things like Rakuten, which used to be Ebates. But that's not necessarily grocery specific, but I could talk about that all day because I use that all the time too. But these will be specific to grocery shopping. And you'll find that with the Fetch rewards too, they are brands that usually are bought, it's always cereal, we're big cereal people too. So I will look if I need something, I'll check Fetch and see if it's on the brand list. And I'm like, okay. And I'll make a note, like, on my grocery list, like make sure I get this brand. So I get the most points on the back end. So it takes a little extra work, but the points really add up quickly, and it's free to use. I'm sure there's some back end math of how these vendors get how this thing works. But I've been really enjoying using that. So I know that there are others, but these are the two main ones that I use for grocery shopping. Okay. I want to scroll through the chat. I want to let people chime in with their thoughts, their successes, their failures. Oh yeah, cookbooks. And did I see someone mention like farm shares? Yes. I haven't explored that, but I really should. The problem is the boys that I live with are not produce eaters by design. If it's a vegetable, it's really hard for me to get it into them. So I'm nervous about wasting it. But I guess I could just say my household size is 1 and just eat it all myself. But I'd love to hear from some folks or thoughts, or if you have questions about the apps, I'd love to hear it.
I'd like to share something. It doesn't really have to do with shopping or whatever, but I've found this new company. It's called Epicure.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it. But if Epicure products they're all gluten-free, nut-free, no corn syrup or you know what I'm saying, fat. No artificial flavors, colors, sweeteners, preservatives, ethically sourced, 90% non-GMO, and they're sugar and sodium conscious. You can get, there's Ethan just put the link up there. They have spices, they have meal kits. Every meal is like 20 minutes. You buy your protein and your vegetables and maybe pasta or rice or whatever. And they're really, really delicious. Now, okay, this is a sales pitch because I am having a party at the end of the week. If anybody would like to join, it's a Facebook thing. And she's going to do a live cooking demonstration on the 25th. So I know I'm Facebook friends with some of you, not all of you, but if you're interested, I'd be happy to share this with you. I've only just started and I've made a couple of things and they're really delicious. I made a stir fry beef and peppers and I made a chicken and broccoli Alfredo. Less than a half an hour, done. Really, really good. And like I said, I think the gluten-free for a lot of people might be a big thing. So if you're interested, let me know and I'll give you some more information. Thanks. By the way, Maria, this was great. A lot of good ideas.
Thanks. I'm glad. I was hoping folks would find it useful. It's just, like I said, just stuff that I've incorporated, and I really should have done the math on what it has saved, but I'm confident it's saved me a ton of money. Where the creative recipes tend to get expensive because I'm like, oh, I need this rare thing I don't have, but then I have it for next time. But I know it's saving me money and just our sanity. Everyone knows what's for dinner. I have a plan of what I'm going to cook. You know, if it's a busy week in the evenings, we've got evening events. It's like, okay, something that can go in the crock pot, something that I can set and forget. I have a whole bunch of crock pot cookbooks. I'm a big, like, set it and forget it kind of fan. So some good recipe websites and stuff in the chat. Anybody else want to chime in anything? I want to hear what
Maria, I don't know if other people have done Misfit Market, but we did start doing it during the pandemic, and it's been really great. You can postpone it for any weeks that, you know, you don't feel like you need the extra produce. Sometimes we just have a ton of produce and I don't need to bring more and end up throwing stuff away. But it really is, if you are someone in particular who does like to shop organic, the vast majority of the vegetables that you receive are all organic, and that's great. Of course, the downside is it doesn't last quite as long, but it's our first box and several boxes I've compared. If we were to buy those even non-organic in the grocery store, you get tons and tons of food for way, way less money. So I would definitely check that out. The other thing I wonder, I know a lot of people at Fame already did, but I wonder how many since the pandemic have had a backyard garden. You know, I know a lot of people didn't really have much else to do last spring and summer. So they, for the very first time, had a garden, and that's a great way, you know, in addition to the CSAs and the farm stands, but just, you know, even if you only have a small little deck, container gardening can really give you some, you know, produce that can help supplement. You know, I don't think any of us, or maybe some of you, are able to live fully on just your garden the entire summer. But even container garden can be pretty prolific and growing things like
that requires a green thumb, and
yeah.
I kill succulents.
You'd be surprised how little of a green thumb you have to have. It's amazing. And then the last tip that we do in our household, I don't know if anybody uses Clink, and this has nothing to do with like food on the surface, but we just stockpile our Clink money over several months. And then around the holidays, when the food budget tends to be more expensive anyway by nature, whether it's, you know, more expensive meat or other foods that you don't normally eat, a little more, you know, if you're having guests, you know, this year was a little different, or even wine or alcohol, you know, if it's New Year's Eve. So it's a really great strategy just to stockpile your Clink money and then use it all, you know, at that time of year when you're spending a lot of money on food. You know, there's certainly times of the year. And then the big thing that I finally did this year really, really well, after 3 years of Allison saying to me, you need to do this, is I really did, not to the penny, but certainly very, very closely, figured out exactly how much I was spending, whether it was the grocery store, Sam's Club, Amazon, if there were minor grocery items, you know, really tried to figure out, what have I been spending and is it reasonable for my family size? And of course, COVID times, it's a little bit different, because I will say there were periodically times where I, you know, bulk purchased in anticipation of not being able to be out or something happening. So I don't know that my budget is quite as accurate this year, but it probably would offset the fact that I'm not feeding other people like I normally do. You know, normally we have a lot of people around in the summer, and, you know, so it probably offsets.
My teen is home more of the time, right? Like during the day. So like, I feel like my snack budget is almost out of control. Like I meal plan, but what I didn't tell you is that like we go through a lot of chips at my house. And so I have to put those, you know, I clip the coupons for those because they're cheap. Because I just feel like with people and I'm guilty myself. I'm here, I'm home all the time. But the snack budget is a little wild. So I have to get creative. But I'm glad you mentioned Clink, because we do that too. And I hadn't even thought about it because it's usually out of sight, out of mind, but we do the same thing. I'm like, for a birthday party or like an event, that I'm like, yeah, we'll use the Clink money for that. So saving it for the post-COVID times.
Yeah. We also have as well, and there's one at Fame now, you know, we also have a soda stream. So if you're a carbonated beverage seltzer, like I literally, it's just tap water that I carbonate. I don't need flavor or anything, but it's just so much easier and cheaper to go that route. I think what we'll do, Ethan, is, you know, compile the chat, because there's so many great tips in the chat. We'll compile that and then send it off to everybody. Thank you so much, Maria. I'm going to stop recording now. And if folks want to unmute and share any other ideas that they have, that would be great. I'm going to go ahead and hit stop recording.